Welcome to the program. Cabinet has approved proposed amendments to the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, including a provision to cap the maximum duration of mining leases at 20 years. The revised bill will now be submitted to Parliament for consideration and approval. Speaking at the Government Accountability Series, Lands and Natural Resources Minister Emmanuel Akufo-Addo said the revised bill, among others, removes recognizances and prospecting licenses and replaces it with exploring fixed at 5 years maximum. It also introduces community development agreements as a mandatory requirement for mining leases.
Another important milestone is the review of the Minerals and Mining Act that has been in place since 2006 at 703. Following extensive stakeholder engagement, the Minerals and Mining Act 2006 at 703, which has been operational for over 20 years, has also been reviewed and endorsed by Cabinet for onward transmission to Parliament for approval. Currently, it's being gazetted. The revised bill provides an updated, coherent, and forward-looking legal regime to ensure that mining contributes immensely to national development. And I'll give you some few highlights on some of the changes that you will see in this new act. The Act introduces district mining committees, and forever we are going to finally empower communities where the mining takes place by saying that anybody who is going to be engaged in licenses will begin the licensing process with the communities. They will give their recommendations before you come to Accra. We have removed reconnaissance and prospecting licenses and replaced it with exploration licenses fixed for 5 years maximum. Why? For a long time, the industry has been occupied by speculators who have simply taken licenses and occupied the whole of Ghana and do nothing. We want serious investment that are focused on the serious business of mining, exploration. And so there are timelines in this exploration period. A 2-year, we will see your work program, and then we will extend it for a maximum of 5 years. If for 5 years you can't act, we will take it from you. So there's so much exciting new provision. We have also limited the fixed period for 20 years, and we have introduced community development agreements. There's always the communities complain about developments, and so every mining lease will also have another additional community development agreement that has been signed between the mining company and the community. And so it's not going to be no longer a choice of a mining company who will decide, oh, I'll give them some water. The community will negotiate in those mining agreements with community agreements with their critical needs, and that will be agreed voluntarily by the mining company and the community. All of these innovative ideas are going to be in the new law. Oh, you can clap for that.
You had the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Akufo-Addo, who also said that Cabinet has revoked Executive Instrument 144, restoring the Achimota Forest to its original status as a fully protected forest reserve and reversing the decision made 4 years ago to remove a portion of the reserve.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very important news in the forestry sector as well. I'm happy to announce a historic cabinet decision taken on the 24th of June 2026 to revoke Executive Instrument EI 144 as amended by EI 234, effectively ensuring that the Achimota Forest retains its original status as a forest reserve and providing ecological safety zone for Accra and its environments. And you have to clap for that. If you think about it, this is the only last man standing forest cover in Accra, and President Mahama is determined to protect it at all costs. Achimota Forest, the EI has been revoked, and what it means is that All of those areas are part of it. I won't go into those who have willed it. I believe that is a matter they can deal with. But what I know is that President Mahama believes that the people of Ghana deserve an environment that will keep us all alive. And that's why he's protecting the Achimota forest.
Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa also said 200 anti-illegal mining operations have been carried out by the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat's Task Force, NIMOS, over the past 6 months, leading to the arrest of more than 200 suspects, including 46 foreign nationals.
In progress. We now move to the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS. Ladies and gentlemen, the fight against illegal mining remains one of the ministry's highest priorities. During the period under review, NIMOS sustained nationwide operational tempo against illegal mining across 6 endemic regions, namely Ashanti, Western North, Eastern, Bono, Ahafo, and Central. A total of 200 operations were executed across 53 districts, recording an operational strike rate of over 84%. I think we can appear in steam. The Secretariat conducted 169 enforcement operations targeting illegal mining sites, forest reserve, river bodies, and concession encroachments. The combined output of these operations is summarized as follows: 207 suspects comprising 161 Ghanaians within the last 6 months, and 46 foreign nationals have all been apprehended. The suspects have been processed and handed over to the security agencies. Between January and June this year, 78 excavators have been seized and 90 excavators has been demobilized. Roughly almost 170 of them. The total. 2,800 shamfans were destroyed on river bodies across the endemic regions. 1,244 makeshift structures associated with illegal mining camps were also destroyed. 302 water pumps, 31 vehicles, 72 motorbikes, 18 generators, 2 payloaders, 5 gold detector machines, 3 outboard motors, 3 weighing scales, and 2 mini car washing machines were all retrieved from active and abandoned sites. 112 pump action rifles, 2 sidearms, 2 locally manufactured rifles, and 1,637 rounds of assorted ammunition have all been retrieved just in the last 6 months. You can just imagine the war we are in. And let's clap for NIMOS.
You've been listening to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, who spoke at the Jubilee House a while ago. Let's get some reactions from civil society organizations. And joining me on the telephone lines right now is Awula Sewa of Eco-Conscious Citizens. Awula, welcome to the program. Are you satisfied with the scoreboard delivered by the Minister on the fight against illegal mining?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. We are pleased that EI 144 has finally been revoked. We know the Achimota Forest Reserve, the lungs of Accra, the last remaining forest reserve in Greater Accra. So we are pleased that EI 144 has been revoked. We are pleased that LI 2462 was revoked earlier. But when it comes to the fight against illegal mining, you know, apart from Chairman Wontumi, who is being prosecuted, which high flyers or what you call politically exposed persons are being prosecuted? I've seen the number of people who are arrested, but which campaigns, as they are called, have actually been arrested. So if there's a worry that the president himself said that members of his own government might be involved, and there's a concern that they are not being prosecuted. But we have the ordinary Kwame and Kojos being prosecuted. As you know, we still face an existential threat from illegal mining. So it's about high time that those behind the big boys behind illegal mining are also arrested and prosecuted. But yes, we are pleased that after years of advocacy, EI 144 has been revoked. And we hope that parts of the forest that were willed to individuals will be taken back and incorporated into the forest reserve.
Let's look at NIMOS operations. The minister did indicate that NIMOS has carried out more than 200 anti-illegal mining operations, leading to the arrest of over 200 suspects, of which 46 of them are foreign nationals. Convincing enough?
You see, what I've just said is that, yes, fantastic. We've arrested over 2,000 people. Clap, clap, clap. Very, very good. But what we need to look at is that what is happening to the big boys who are perpetrating this illegal mining. You know, there are all sorts of reports in the media about DCEs, political appointees, ministers who are allegedly involved. Names have been given. I'm not going to mention names on your station, but names have been given. Why are they not being arrested and prosecuted? Yes, everybody involved should be arrested, not only Kojos and Kwames, even the so-called politically exposed persons who are complicit or directly involved in illegal mining. Why are they not being prosecuted? Is it only Chairman Wong to me? You know, is he the only person the only big high flyer involved in illegal mining? Of course not. What is happening to the others? You know, to see the real commitment, we need to see more prominent persons allegedly involved in illegal mining being prosecuted. And let me add here that on Friday, the Atronsu activists are going back to court. These were activists protecting the Atronsu stream who were being prosecuted by the state, whilst the people destroying the landscape and the Atronsu stream are walking free. We've been reliably informed that the Attorney General is going to drop the charges. But we wait to go to court on Friday and to hear it announced in court that the charges against the activists have been dropped. Until then, you know, they are facing prosecution, which is not a good thing, and doesn't show a commitment against fighting illegal mining.
Well, the sector minister also did indicate that government is now capping mining leases at 20 years, which will improve accountability. Do you think that is enough, the number of years that we are capping it at, or something better could have been done?
You see, this is one thing. Another thing I would say is that we are issuing, whether you call it cooperative mining licenses, like confetti. And a lot of the people who have the licenses are not properly equipped to do responsible mining. So what exactly are we doing? That we don't even have the resources to monitor. So, for example, we give mining licenses, and even the duty bearers don't even know that you can't start mining just with a mining license. You need a permit from the EPA. So they start just willy-nilly. And if we really are interested in stopping the ongoing exercise, we have to stop doing licenses like confetti. We have to ensure that anybody who has a license has been properly, where he's going to mine is properly looked at. He has all the things he needs in place and does not destroy the environment. Because having a license, whether you cap it or you don't cap it, having a license, if you don't monitor and ensure compliance, then, illegal or irresponsible mining will take place. So we really need to do much, much more if we want to save Ghana from the brink of disaster. Because let me say this, we are on the verge of an ecological catastrophe. Over 60% of our water bodies have been poisoned. Our food is poisoned. And we don't seem to be getting to grasp with the real issues and arresting and prosecuting those who are actually causing this mayhem. It's those down the line who are being arrested. And let me use this space to say that there's also illegal mining going on in Etiwa Forest Reserve. And therefore, we are pleading with the government to turn Etiwa Forest Reserve into a national park, because a national park has more protection than a forest reserve. And we are hoping that the illegal mining will stop in Etiwa, which is a globally significant biodiversity area. 3 rivers take their source from Etiwa Forest Reserve. And it's a shame that we are sitting there as the forest is being decimated by illegal miners and poachers and others.
Well, still on that, though, he also spoke about the licenses given out to prospective licensing in the country, reconnaissance licensing. He says that now it is capped at 5 years, exploration license limit. Many are scared that it could affect investment into the country. With the capping of exploration license at 5 years now, are you concerned or worried that it could affect investment, as many are already calling for?
You see, I'm not that way inclined. You see, I'm thinking about the environment. You're talking about investment. I'm sure you're aware that you've been told that the number of kidney disease cases has gone up 4 times. Being on that, not a small matter. So we're talking about investment, but I think what we need to be concerned about is the health and the welfare of Ghanaians. I keep on saying that we cannot eat gold. Therefore, if the mining licenses are being capped and it is believed that that would help, so be it. But my major concern is not just the capping of the licenses. My major concern is how we are treating our environment. Whether you cap it or you don't cap it, if you don't monitor, if you don't have the resources to ensure that those who have licenses are going according to the parameters of their license, then I'm afraid not much will be achieved. Professor Simpon Boateng warned that the fact that one has a mining license or an exploration license, whatever license you want to call it, doesn't mean that the person is operating within the parameters of the license.
Right.
So it's more important to ensure that the duty bearers who are supposed to be monitoring have the capability to do so, they have the resources. That is what is more important. Otherwise, you can cap it at 1 year, cap it at 4 years. If you can't monitor, then what is the practical value?
I want you to hold on for me. Let me bring in John Dako, who is the MP for Swami and also the legal counsel for the minority in Parliament. He's also on the Environment Committee in Parliament as well. Mr. Dako, welcome to the program. The Sector Minister, Emmanuel Amakofibo, has announced a slew of changes in our mining sector. One of the key things is the 20-year cap on mining leases. Is that something the minority supports?
Well, thank you very much for having me. This thing has been debated for a while. I mean, even amongst our corporates, there are those who believe that because we need to attract investment into the mining sector, capping the tenure to 20 years will be a problem. But I don't think that is an issue we should debate at all, because even in the oil and gas sector, the Petroleum Act puts the tenure at 25. So we are reviewing the mining law from 30 years to 20 years. We've had meetings with some of the mining companies who are obviously not happy because they feel that they are putting in a lot of money, and so they should be allowed more time to recoup. One of the things we need to realize is that attracting foreign investment is a big deal right now. And in the sub-region, Ghana, the only trump card we have is the safety and the peace we have here. Otherwise, Benin and Cote d'Ivoire and neighbors are rather attracting more investment than us. And so we need to be wary. For me, if we really want to get the best out of our mining business, I don't think that cutting the time really is the answer. It's to ensuring that we add value to the gold we mine here. And as the earlier speaker spoke about, ensuring that the mining is done properly.
So the minority really has an issue with the 20-year capping, if I understand you correctly.
Yeah, because of the fact that the investment committee will be looking at these things, in making a decision whether to invest in Ghana or not. I mean, mining is very, very expensive venture. And so for anybody to bring in the millions of dollars that is needed, they should be assured of a long-term period of recovering their investment. And so capping it, my worry is that the investors may be looking at other regions, especially Benin these days and Ivory Coast. They are willing to give more than 20 years. But you see, what goes for us really is a history of long, mining, and you are sure that when you come to Ghana, you are likely to get a gold. And also, of course, the peace and stability we have here, that's our trump card. So we don't have to burn through our goodwill. We need to ensure that even even if we want to reduce the tenure to 20 years, we give the mining community or the investment community other incentives to be coming down here.
Well, the 20 years, according to the minister, is subject to review and possible extension if after the 20 years it examined that the company did what indeed it said it was going to do. So it doesn't necessarily mean, per what the minister said, that 20 years and it's over. If you meet the requirements and satisfied all the things you said you were going to do, surely there's going to be an extension.
Yes, true. So for the mining communities, or the investors, they say that previously they had guaranteed 60 years. Now it's more or less guaranteed 40 years. Because if you look at the Minerals and Mining Act, when it comes to the renewal, it's mandatory. The law says you shall renew. That's after they've met all the requirements. And so they have always seen that as a more or less 60-year lease, but now they see it as 40-year lease, and so it all affects their investment plan and opportunities. Yes.
Let's talk about some of the gains that the minister did mention that they have made in the fight against illegal mining. He said that NIMOS has busted and arrested over 200 persons engaged in illegal mining, 46 of them being foreign nationals. Is that a step in the right direction, or you think we could have done more?
Well, I mean, any attempt to fighting galamsey is a step in the right direction. And so we can say that we commend the minister and the government for making the attempt. But, we need to judge this vis-a-vis their promise to the people of Ghana. When this government was campaigning, they promised total end of galamsey. But now, a year and a half down the line, they are telling us about arrests they've made, arrests that we cannot even verify. They claim that they have received, they have taken over cars, guns and rifles and ammunition. They say that they've taken over some funds. They say all these things. But these things were being done in the previous administration. The Operation Vanguard, they were there to fight them. What the government said it was going to do differently, because what these things they are talking about, they were being done by the previous administration. What they said was that they were going to arrest so-called political persons who were the big men, so to say, behind the galamsey operation. And so the question really is whether they've lived up to that expectation. The question is whether or not Yamin has been arrested, Yamin, the organizer, has been arrested and prosecuted. The president himself said that he's not kidding himself. He knows that the NDC members are in this business. The president is aware. In fact, there's a letter from Joy FM, a memo from Joy FM to the presidency and from Parliament here talking about galamsey and the fact that some of his appointees, MCs, are actually receiving taxes from galamsey operators. Joy FM had a report. Your station had a report. What has become of that report? What did they come up? What did the presidency say about that report? And so they will come and tell us all these things. So we have arrested 200 people. How many people have been sent to jail? How many of these people are the political appointees? We know that when it comes to Odan, the Odan DC was actively engaging in galamsey. What has happened to him? There are other regions and the MCs and DC engaging in galamsey. The president and his cabinet are aware what has happened to these people. And so for me, all the things he said they have achieved, the arrest, the foreigners who were arrested, the champagnes, the seized, the cars, the ammunition, and under the previous government, payloaders and these earth-moving machines were bent. Didn't you see that? Hundreds of them were arrested. And so this, for me, gimmickry that this government is engaging in is just laughable. The government is not serious about fighting galamsey. They just want to show face. You see, we have always maintained that this government, a certain government, they will come and tell us this number. But really and truly, nothing is going on. Right now, as we speak, across the length and breadth of this country.
Hello, John, do I have you?
Galamsey activity. Every mining community in this country is complaining about the effect of illegal mining. Go to Amansia, we were there in the last couple of months. Amansia is worse than a well in 2024. And indeed, right now, they have introduced cyanide. The cyanidation of illegal mining is getting worse. Kidney failures now is the order of the day in all these mining communities. And so when the minister comes to tell us this, I don't see really what is different from what they are saying, what the previous government was doing. Listen, they said that even in the whole review of the Mining Act, they have involved the community. There's community involvement, and so somebody should clap for them. Under the current regime, under the Section 13(2) of Act 703, there's a requirement for the chiefs and the people to be contacted before a mining lease is granted. Maybe he doesn't know. He should go and read. I have referred you to Section 13(2) of the Act 703. Okay. The mining communities have always been involved. So when you come out and say that we should clap for you because now there's a requirement for community development agreement, really, these are not things that we don't know. There's nothing new in all the things they are saying. This government, and it saddens me that some Ghanaians are still following them because it's just sentence. There's no solid policy to resolving the illegal mining as we see it now. All the things they said, my brother. You are the media and the people of Ghana are listening to us. Under the NPP government, where payloaders not arrested, where earth-moving machines not arrested, where they're not kept, didn't we seize some funds? Didn't we seize cars, ammunition? Didn't we arrest people? Didn't we seize gold? Didn't we see all the things he's talking about? So what is new? I think that's the kind of question we should be asking them. What they promised was to arrest the political people behind these gentlemen. Yamin is there, his MCs are there. There are a lot of reports that even some MPs in the NDC are involved. What has he done about them? Those are the questions you should be asked.
Well, in terms of you asking what is new, there is a revocation of the executive instrument 144, which restores Achimota Forest as a forest reserve again, because we've heard of a lot of conversation around Achimota Forest, which at a point somebody even willed it to their family member in their will. What do you make of that executive instrument by the minister?
I think it's a good thing that it's been revoked. I believe that that place, as an environmentalist, I believe that place should be reserved as it is now. I mean, as an individual, I was never in support of the selling off of that place, and so I'm happy that that has been repealed. But you see, the point is, the Achimota Forest as it sits now, who is encroaching in the Achimota Forest? Is there mining going on? Because we are talking about mining, that's what I'm referring to. But let's say that mining is not going on. Is somebody building a residential apartment there? Nothing has happened. So, for me, the people of Ghana, when that news came, the people of Ghana fought against it, and the previous administration shelved it. Okay? They shelved it. Nobody can say that he has a plot of land in Achimota Forest right now. But the good thing is that now, whatever law that made it possible for it to be redemarcated has been repealed. I recommend them for that.
Okay, so these slew of changes, as mentioned earlier, are part of the amended Minerals and Mining Bill, which will be presented before Parliament, according to the minister. Will the minority support this new bill or this amended bill?
The minority always want the best for the country. And so the law will participate in it. Where we believe the amendments are not necessary, we will voice out. So, for instance, the 20-year period. For us, we believe that, yes, we need to attract more investment because this government came and promised the people of Ghana jobs. The government has collapsed jobs. ZP, even people who were employed before they came, they have sacked all of them. So the thousands and millions of Ghanaian youth want employment. And so if we mine responsibly, because especially the large-scale mining companies, they do better, they employ people, they pay big taxes. If we are not careful and we will let them move to other investment destinations in the sub-region, it's going to affect us. And so we will expect that restore the 30 years, get the confidence of the investment community to come around, invest. And for them, because they generally do better with protecting the environment. So these ones will make the case for the restoration or for the current regime to be retained. But of course, there are other ones that we will support. But for me, the one about the community involvement, I don't think it's necessary, because already under the 703, there's a requirement for community involvement. If we are not implementing it, it is not the absence of law, it is just the absence of enforcement. I think that as a country, we should concern ourselves more in enforcing our laws than keep passing new laws. We've become a country of laws. There are hundreds and thousands of laws that we don't enforce. And for me, that is a problem.
Final one, John, before I let you go. Out of 10, how would you rate this government's fight against Galamsey with all that you've said?
Well, I go to any of the mining communities and fetch water from the river bodies. It is still as dark as coffee. Ask Ghana Water. Look, we've had our committees. Ghana Water has appeared before us. One of the main concerns of Ghana Water is illegal mining. You don't even call me. Call Ghana Water. Call Ghana Water and ask them whether or not illegal mining has stopped, because they feel it. Call any mining community and ask them whether illegal mining has stopped. I have visited several illegal mining communities in the past few months, and what I've seen is that it's getting worse. And I mentioned that right now, the chemical inclusion, the cyanide that is now part of illegal mining, has made it worse. And so for me, yes, the attempt the government has made is commendable, and so that gives them 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10, you say their fight against Galamsey?
I'm a teacher, I've taught for more than 15 years, and so I mark scripts very well.
Okay. John Darko, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. He's the MP for Swami and also the Vice on the line. Do we have Awula Sewa on the line?
Good afternoon.
Awula, hold on for me. I'll come back to you, because in the meantime, the recent floods that swept through parts of Ghana, claiming lives and destroying property, have once again exposed a hard truth. We continue to build in waterways, wetlands, buffer zones, and green spaces, often with little or no regard for planning regulations. Even where authorities issue demolition or removal notices, enforcement is often missing. In some cases, structures marked for removal remain in place months later. One such example is a double-decker container erected partly in a gutter on Obenusu Crescent in Cantonment. The structure was marked by the La Dadikotopon Municipal Assembly for removal, yet it still stands. So why do illegal structures continue to flourish despite repeated warnings and disasters? Awula Sewa, as I mentioned earlier, is still with me. She is with eco-conscious citizens. She is very concerned about the well-being of the environment. Awula, let's put illegal mining aside for a minute and talk about this. You have been raising serious concerns about this menace, particularly this container, which the Municipal Assembly has been unable to remove. What do you make of it?
Well, you see, I want to ask myself, why is the Assembly reluctant to remove it? The Assembly itself painted in red, removed by December 2025. We're in July 2026. Is it that the directors of the company are so-called big men, as we say in Ghana? You see, the problem with Ghana is a lack of enforcement. The double-decker is what you call a low-hanging fruit. You can easily cause it to be removed. We have bigger issues, like people who are built in wetlands, people who are built on waterways, which have been responsible for some of the flooding that has killed people. But if we cannot even remove a double-decker container from the gutter, then, we have serious problems on our hands. The lack of enforcement is what is killing Ghana. There's no point in having building laws and regulations if we are unable to enforce them. So I'm appealing to the Municipal Assembly, to LADMA, to tomorrow remove the double-decker, to convince Ghanaians that you are interested in doing the right thing without fear or favor. It doesn't matter who the directors of the company are that have put the double-decker container in the gutter. You will do what needs to be done. Otherwise, we are not convinced that you're going to do anything about structures on Ramsar sites or waterways or what have you.
Awula, the final one will be about Galamsey. Are you satisfied with the interpretation and explanation that we heard from the minority through its representative, John Dako, who is the vice chairman of the Environment and Science Committee in Parliament?
See, anybody who is following what is going on will be very worried. 60% of our water bodies are still polluted. The Ankobra is still diverted. They are still champagne. The scientists or Akufo-Addo Teaching Hospital tells us that the number of kidney disease cases has gone up fourfold. Our food is being poisoned. We are facing an existential threat. We need to properly resolve those who are fighting against illegal mining. For example, NAMO, they need to be properly resolved. Forestry Commission, the guards don't have bulletproof vests, and they are patrolling when they are armed illegal miners. They need to have bulletproof vests if they are to do their work well. I believe 2 people have been shot, 1 has been killed. Then to go on, and we have what we call politically exposed persons who are involved or complicit. We know that illegal mining cannot go on if the chief, the political authority, and the police command say no. It will be very difficult for it to thrive. Look at Gemma in the Iowin district. There's still illegal mining going on, and they are focused on cooperative farming. Because they know we cannot eat gold, but we certainly need to eat some food, and they've kept their rainforest and their water bodies pristine. Why? Because their visionary chiefs that you haven't heard of, Anna and the Food Second, and Father JB have galvanized the community. They set Jaga, Gemma, anti-Galamsey advocacy, and they patrol, and there's no illegal mining there. Why can't the rest of us learn from there? Because in other communities, either the chiefs, the political appointees, or the police command, or all 3 are complicit or directly involved. Now, what is preventing the government to show its robust, I've even lost for words, to show Ghanaians that we want to deal with illegal mining, when it is not arresting those we know who are close to the administration, who are involved in illegal mining? Their names are mentioned on social media. Why are they not being arrested? Why is it only Chairman Wontumi who is facing prosecution? You see, once we don't do this, it doesn't look like the fight is very serious. And let me remind all your viewers of what Sam George said when he was in opposition. He was saying that the then president was under the chief of the armed forces and that he wanted to end illegal mining. He could do it in, what was it he said? Was it 4 weeks, 4 months, whatever?
Yeah.
So why is it that we cannot even arrest those we know who are close to the administration or allegedly close to the administration and are involved in illegal mining? So we arrest ordinary people who, yes, they should also be arrested, but you cannot arrest the ordinary people and not arrest those who are financing what is killing most of us, because we are facing ecocide. Our waters are being poisoned, our food is being poisoned. So I would say that I commend the government for repealing LI 2462 and EI 144, the lungs of Accra, Achimota Forest. And let's be clear that all that what has been done is that the lands that removed from the forest reserve has been put back in. That there are lots of buildings that are already in the forest reserve. We don't know what's going to happen to that. So what EI 144 has done is to take away those areas, 361 acres, I believe, that were removed from the forest reserve. So we commend the government for that. But we need to be very single-minded and robust about stopping illegal mining. It is killing Ghanaians. We don't want to wait till every Ghanaian is dropping dead. And let me say that Ghana Resource Company, they have a mandate to publish the results of the water. So Ghanaians need to know what is coming through their taps. The fact that the water is clear doesn't mean that it doesn't contain arsenic or cyanide or mercury. They are colorless. So using the color of the water as an indicator is not a full picture. It might show you the stability, but in terms of the heavy metals, they are colorless. So we need to ensure that Ghana Water begins to publish the results of the water it's testing, so we know exactly what's coming through our taps.
Awula Sewa with Eco-Conscious Citizens. Always grateful to have you on our show.
Thank you for having me.
Joy News investigation has revealed a land restoration program implemented by the Minerals Development Fund has become a vehicle for coveted illegal mining activities in the Ashanti region. Some contractors partnering with the fund in the project to restore degraded lands are allegedly involved in brisk illegal mining operations. The Minerals Development Fund has several land restoration sites in the Adansi North and South, Bosomi Freho and the Aboagye South districts of the Ashanti region. Our investigations have established the scheme is being abused as contractors of the scheme hide behind the restoration program to degrade several hectares of forests. 6 people working with one of the contractors have been arrested by the Forestry Commission for undertaking illegal mining operations in the Tinte Bepo Forest Reserve in the Aboagye South East District of the Ashanti region. Ohemi Interior has more in this special report.
Posts have been erected at the entrances of the mining sites with the inscription Minerals Development Fund Land Restoration Project. These sites are manned by heavily armed security personnel dressed in military camouflage. Several of these mining sites come with a scannable barcode. It has the Forestry Commission, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and the Minerals Development Fund as the implementing agencies.
Let's scan the barcode and see what we are likely to get. Okay, so I have scanned it. Immediately I scanned, I found this information.
But the Forestry Commission has denied their involvement in the restoration projects. Officials say the contractors did not possess a forestry entry permit, the basic requirement that allows their presence in the forest. This is Omania Mankwa, the Mankranso District Forestry Manager. He led the arrest of 6 workers of Sudada Global Limited, one of the contractors of the restoration project in the Tinte Bepo Forest on Friday, July 10 at Nyamebechre near Abeswa.
Even though the people are not having the permit, but they've started building up the structure outside the forest reserve. The last time a team went there, we realized they were even having armed or security officers with wearing uniform, equally like the ones the military or the forestry response team, rapid response team are using. So we're even happy that then they are going to help us to protect the area. Until recently that we had information that they are doing otherwise. Otherwise means there's an illegal activity going on there.
Mr. Mankwa was however shocked to see a new mining pit has been opened by the men tasked to restore degraded mined areas and promised to help protect the forest.
The area has been a prone area that from time to time, when we go there, drive the people, we burn their things. So somebody coming to help you to build camp for security men to stay there to protect the area, you will be happy. And from the initial stage, what we saw was an indication that they are going to do a good job, not knowing they have a different intention. Because, for instance, they have started building the camp. It's right there.
Yeah, I've seen it.
They were there with armed security men. So you can see that they are coming to do something good for you. And the very day that we went there to drive them out from the place, they were filling the existing pits that we have already burned machines anyway. So you'll be happy. Everybody will be happy that, oh, at least the people are going to help us. Not knowing there's a different motive behind what they are doing.
The Ashanti Regional Security Liaison Officer, Captain Retired Kwame Jabari, led a team of military men to seize excavators impounded by the Forestry Commission on Saturday, July 11.
So the other company who's actually officially doing the reclamation, it was under a special initiative of the Mineral Development Fund. So we got them involved in it. And they confirmed that this is the contract they have given to, or the job they have given to Sudada to do at this place. And that work is being done perfectly. So when it came up that, no, their CEO's name was mentioned, she was concerned that,
what's happening? It's a reclamation that the gentleman has been given to do. So how come it is now turned to mining? So it's when all of us got there that we got a picture of, okay, this is what carbon copy of it is being used at a different place to do the mining. And he has come to give us that no, he has no details on it. So we are quite satisfied that the MDF, the DC and the MP had no knowledge in it. It is just somebody who saw that reclamation is being done, and he just went to hide somewhere and then put those accolades on himself that that's what he's doing over there.
Behind me is a freshly dug pit, which can be compared to the size of a standard football pitch.
Some economic trees, such as cedrela and teak, planted some years ago, have been destroyed by the miners. The Asarikrom cottage, a supposed camp the Mineral Development Fund promised to set up to help protect the forest, is still under construction. Large tanks filled with several gallons of diesel have been deposited here. Another signpost, which bears the Mineral Development Fund Land Restoration Project, comes with the same barcode. Residents say the miners came with a simple promise to help reclaim the degraded lands and also carry out afforestation. 69-year-old Openi Yaukwatin, whose cottage shares a boundary with the Office of the Minerals Development Fund backed Sudada Global Limited, tells Joy News the company runs day and night shifts at the site.
Nti omo ye adwuma no pa no mo ana omo be ye adwuma na omo kwa omo foforo san ba
omo kwa no foforo aba
omo no ba be rain
omo so ba be sin ba no nsia.
According to Captain Retired Jabari, preliminary investigations suggest a different company other than Sodada Global Limited has been undertaking illegal mining operations. His views are, however, contrary to the facts on the ground.
They were there with armed security men. So you can see that they are coming to do something good for you. And the very day that we went there to drive them out from the place, they were filling the existing pits that we have already burned machines anyway. So you'll be happy. Everybody will be happy that, oh, at least the people are going to help us. Not knowing there's a different motive behind what they are doing.
The police have also impounded an unregistered Toyota Tacoma pickup vehicle allegedly used for the illegal operations. The Member of Parliament for Ahafo South East, Yakubu Mohammed, warns the Inspector General of Police and NIMOS to carry out a thorough investigation into the illegal mining operations and bring all perpetrators to book.
I'm one MP who fight illegal mining to the core. Abesua Forest, as we know, to my best of knowledge, there is a document to show, proving that they are doing restoration there. The DCE is not part of the agreement, neither myself. There's an agreement that were done. As you went there, you saw those signposts. And I'm sure all the security men that came, they saw it. So why are they failing to talk about it? I am calling on the IGP. This is a call. I'm calling on the IGP. I'm calling on the military. I'm calling on NIMOS. I'm calling on SWAT. I'm calling on anti-robbery to take Ahafo Southeast as a personal project. They should block the road from Asempaneye in the same junction. Every single site of illegal mining, I entreat them not just to arrest the machines and arrest people. They should burn the machines.
The Metal Belt Coordinator for the Minerals Development Fund, Ralph Kwenu, tells Joy News the fund stopped Sodada Global Limited from operations following a monitoring tour. He revealed a camp the company was setting up for the Forestry Commission in the Tinte Bipo Reserve fell short of requirements. According to him, the stoppage order was to allow the company to acquire a forestry entry permit, insisting the ongoing investigation will help uncover the real culprits behind the illegalities. Meanwhile, all 6 suspects have been transferred to the Ashanti Regional Police Headquarters. They have been identified as John Puriban and Benjamin Tay, both aged 50 years, McLean Kufuor and Entry Bride, both aged 40 years, and 32-year-old Nimokwatin. They all claim in their statement to the Mankransu police their occupation is reclamation. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohimeteria reporting.
And back here in Accra, lawyers for the former chief executive officer of the National Buffer Stock Company, Hanan Abdul Wahab, have filed an application at the Criminal Division of the Accra High Court seeking to strike out the fresh charge sheet filed by the prosecution. The earlier charges against Hanan were withdrawn, with the prosecution subsequently filing the new charges, claiming it had uncovered fresh evidence against the accused. However, in court today, lead counsel Godfrey Dame told the court that the defense had filed an application to set aside the new charges, arguing they are fatally defective and in contravention of the accused person's constitutional rights. Legal Affairs correspondent Fatal Bayaga was in court and is joining me in studio with more on this. Fatal, how did the prosecution respond to this application?
Okay, so basically led by Principal State Attorney A.C. Denta Yanka and court, basically the first thing she said was that they had not yet received this particular motion from the counsel for the defense, but then in her preliminary arguments before the specialized court of the Accra High Court, basically in that argument she said that the accused person, the charges were read to the accused person. In fact, he entered his plea, among other things. In fact, CMC, that's the case management conference, is done. Documents or disclosures have been made. They've gone through all of that thoroughly. And today, the court was supposed to go ahead with the trial. And in fact, she told the court that I had even brought the first prosecution witness in relation to this particular case. So today was set for the commencement of this particular trial before the Accra High Court, and then the prosecution's attention was drawn to this particular, motion filed by the counsel for the defense. And basically, in that particular argument, she said that just simply the court should simply dismiss this particular motion because it's not it's not material to this particular case at this critical point that the trial was just about commencing.
And what was the judge's decision on this matter?
So according to the judge, yes, the arguments were sound, but then according to the standard practice of the law of court, it was important for him to hear this particular motion because it is consequential to this particular trial. Just imagine that he says that I'm setting aside this particular, motion, and then on the 20th they are back in court, and then the court hears the motion and realizes that it has some kind of grounds, or it's material, or it has some merits. Then it means that the whole trial would be affected, and for that reason, it is important that this particular motion is heard. So the judge then, talking about Francis Achibonga, then adjourned this particular case to the 20th of July when the parties will be back to court, make their arguments, and then to see whether to set aside this motion for the trial to continue, or if the motion is upheld, it means that the prosecution, the Attorney General's Department, they would have to go back and come again with a new charge sheet.
Hanan also claims that his mobile phones, money, and other valuables were unlawfully seized by officials of the EOCO. Did the court make any decision on that? Interestingly,
no. According to lead counsel for Hanan, according to him, the court will take a decision on this particular matter tomorrow. Hanan, in fact, he has already filed an application to compel the EOCO to provide these particular items, or to give these items back to him. So tomorrow the court would sit on this particular application to see whether EOCO should hand over these items to Hanan or not. So we'll see what pans out at the Accra High Court tomorrow.
Fatal Bayaga reports to us from the courts. Thank you very much, Fatal. The spokesperson for the MPP flag bearer, Dennis Miracles Aboagye, has broken his silence on his detention less than 24 hours after his release, challenging claims by the Economic and Organized Crime Office EOCO that he is being investigated for the alleged misappropriation of 55 million cedis during his tenure as head of the Interministerial Coordinating Committee on Decentralization, IMCOD. In a statement, EOCO said Aboagye's arrest was linked to investigations into the alleged misuse of the funds, an inquiry that has been ongoing for about a year. But barely 24 hours after his release from EOCO custody, Dennis Aboagye has rejected the claims, insisting that he has never been involved in nor investigated over any 55 million cedis corruption-related matter connected to his role at IMCOD. So what exactly is the basis of his denial, and what does this mean for the ongoing investigation? Let's get talking and go on to Zoom right now and bring in the deputy spokesperson for Dr. Mamudu Bawumia, Dr. Akufo-Addo. She's also a part of the communication team of Miracle Aboagye's bid to lead the MPP as its Director of Communications. Dr. Amwako, welcome to the program. On what basis is Dennis Miracles Aboagye disputing EOCO's claim that he's being investigated over the alleged 55 million Ghana cedis misappropriation?
First, let me say good afternoon to all your lovely viewers this afternoon. Obviously, it's been a really difficult couple of days, but since we are still alive, we'll give praise to God. I think since Sunday, since this issue broke, there has been a deliberate attempt by EOCO to mislead the public with what is actually going on, which we find very worrying and surprising, because you expect that a government investigative agency such as EOCO would want to keep their credibility. So let me just give a little background to the events of this. Dennis was returning back to Ghana, and he was picked up at the airport by EOCO and the Immigration Service. This was about Saturday. The party, his family, nobody knew his whereabouts till about Monday around 3, where we were finally able to find out that he was being held at EOCO. So it was at that point that Honorable Atacha took off with his defense. Unknowingly to him and to all of us, EOCO issues a statement, obviously because of the pushback, because I don't know if you monitored social media, you monitored the sentiments of people when Miracles was picked up. It was clear that there was something fishy going on, and so there was a lot of pressure on the government as to what's going on. The persecution of the opposition seems to have reached a crescendo. It's just going up, and it has gotten to a point where people were fed up. So understandably, in the midst of that pressure, EOCO issued a statement. What is unfortunate is that the statement is laced with so many inaccuracies that seek to damage the reputation of the young man, which I find very worrying, because what that means is that today it might be Miracles, but tomorrow it might be you that has said something that Acha doesn't like, and he can put some charges against you. That's a very dangerous thing. So let's go into the issues that were mentioned in the press release. Firstly, it was said that some 55 million, he was under investigation for some 55 million, and some 7 charges were listed, right, Ken?
Yes.
Yes. But funny enough, apparently he was picked up so that he could. Can you hear me?
I can. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so he was picked up basically on the basis of these issues. What is interesting is that during questioning, at no point did any issue of 55 million cedis come up. In fact, if you are familiar with the operations of the IMCC, you know that it's not like a complete government agency. It's not like he was the CEO of a complete government agency that will have the budget to the tune of 55 million cedis. That's the first red flag. The IMCC did not even have enough money for someone to be able to take 55 million cedis out of the IMCC and still be able to pay their staff. And indeed, it is now that the IMCC has gone down under Dennis's management, they were able to pay their staff, and then they were running multiple programs. So that's the first red flag. The IMCC does not even have that much money. Number 2, at no point during the interrogation was Dennis questioned on anything to the tune of 55 million cedis. At no point were those 7 charges that were put in the press release discussed with him. So we would have to wait and see what charges EOCO actually sends to court. That is, if they are able to send the matter to court, because we've seen the way they operate. It's not the first time they've picked someone sought to denigrate the person's reputation so much, and in the end we find out that it was the farthest issue from the truth that was as possible. What I even found frightening is that yesterday when they went to his residence in Latte to conduct a search, I need to find out if this fellow actually works for EOCO, but somebody was able to take pictures and leak it online. I don't know if that's how we conduct criminal investigations now in this country. That's somebody who is innocent until proven guilty. You go to for a search of his property and you take pictures and release it online. What is that supposed to mean? Like, what's the purpose of that? But these are all very serious questions that we should be asking EOCO. Because like I said, it might be Dennis today, tomorrow it might be you, and it could be over something as flimsy as you said something Natasha didn't like, or you looked at a girl who likes the wrong way. That's the path on which we are going. Number two, before I digress too far, was the issue of the young man, the accountant of the IMCC. I believe I've shared a few documents with you, Ken.
Yes, you have, and my producers will be projecting that on the screen for us.
Okay. So there was also an attempt by EOCO in their statement to link those two issues, which have nothing in common. Again, at no point during Dennis's interrogation was the issue of Jawad Appiah mentioned. At no point. What is important to note in that matter is somewhere last year, an audit report was issued, which is something that happens yearly. Every year, an audit is conducted. And during that audit report, some irregularities were discovered that Gerald was liable for. They came to a conclusion that he should pay back the amount that his irresponsibility caused the government or caused the IMCC. And the total amount that he was surcharged to pay was something like 500,000 cedis. So not even up to 1 million cedis. So even if you want to talk about the matter of Gerald, there's no 55 million cedis again there. So again, we have to ask you, where did they cook that figure from? So in the case of Gerald, during the 2025 audit report, they found like accounting errors that happened. So he agreed to pay back, and this gentleman has even paid almost all of the 500,000, and the only outstanding balance is 79,000 cedis. 79,000 cedis, not dollars. So again, I ask EOCO, where do they get this 55 million from? So if you are trying to say that you are charging them together, and then you even want to add that to the Gerald case, which he has never been involved in, when the young man was questioned, he made it clear that it was a mistake he made on his own and that there was no involvement of Dennis. And it's also in the auditor's reports that I have shared with you. So even if it is that case, the total amount that the Gerald is culpable for there is 500,000, of which he has cleared the debt and has a balance of about 79,000 cedis to go. So again, a simple question to EOCO is, how did they come up with this 55 million? How do you arrest a suspect and don't question him on these things, yet you issue a press release? One thing I found that was very interesting with regards to this matter is the press release was not even signed. So obviously they didn't even have the confidence to append their signature to it because they knew it was very questionable. And it's very obvious that Dennis announced his bid to be the communications director of the party. He has been one of the most ardent critics of this government. We all remember these cocoa issues and how it was going on for months and it was not getting anybody's attention. So Dennis went into the cocoa growing areas and brought their concerns to mainstream media. I was following your bulletin before, and then there were issues of Galamsey going on, and I listened to Madame Awola Sewa. And she said something very good. Where are all the other people that are released on social media that this person is involved, this person is involved? Mostly NDC people, nothing is done. We don't hear anything about this. All these issues were issues that Dennis had taken personal and was bringing to the attention of the Ghanaian public. And so for him to be arrested Rambo style, like he was absconding or that he was a hardened criminal, where is the presumption of innocence that we are entitled to here as Ghanaians? We can also move on to the bail condition. So if you haven't questioned somebody about 55 million, like I said, I'm hoping you reach out to EOCO and explain to us how they came up with that 55 million, and then you give him a bail of 50 million with 3 sureties to be justified. That is a very draconian bail condition, and we are aware that in this country, bail is not meant to be punitive. And I think everybody watching, including those in the studio and myself, would be able to say that Dennis Aboagye is not a flight risk. He's not going anywhere. He's probably one of the easiest people to find because at least by the end of the week, he would have gone on TV somewhere. So it's not very difficult to find him. Number two, he had been invited previously by EOCO, I think somewhere less than 2 months ago. He honored that invitation. In fact, before he traveled, he went there himself to find out that he hasn't heard back from them what is going on. He said they were in bed and they were going to call him. And so for you to then watch him leave the country, return and pick him up at the airport Rambo style, his family doesn't know where he is for the whole weekend, the party doesn't know where he is for the whole weekend, and to impose such draconian bail conditions on Monday at 8:30 p.m., it is clear that this is a very calculated attempt to sully his reputation in front of the Ghanaian public. But I can say that it will not work. I'm very pleased with the sharp-eyedness of the Ghanaian population, because everybody's asking questions that this simply doesn't add up. So I think that for now, that is the little I can contribute, but the lawyers will come out and issue formal statements to this. But like I said, at no point was 55 million discussed during the interrogation. The matter of Gerald Appiah, it has nothing to do with Dennis Miracle Aboagye. And even if it does, that case is, the liability in that case is about 500,000, not even up to 1 million cedis, of which the person has paid almost all the money and has an outstanding balance of 79,000 cedis, of which they have a payment plan for him to pay back that money. Again, the audit reports even do in that finding, if you give me a second to pull it up, where initially this matter was not even treated as criminal because it was not even treated as a criminal matter, and they had come to a conclusion and Gerald was paying back. Like I said, this happened as far back as last year, and there were payments in March, payments way before Dennis was even invited to EOCO. Again, we would like to know how those two cases are even linked. And again, where from this 55 million?
Okay. Dr. Aboagye, I've been going through all the documents that you shared with us, and I've been listening to you keenly as well. Can you categorically state to us that no financial laws, procurement breaches, or administrative irregularities occurred at IMCOT during Dennis Miracle Aboagye's tenure, or are you only disputing the 55 million Ghana cedis figure that was quoted by EOCO?
So we are speaking to the statement EOCO released. Obviously, Dennis is available in this country, and if there are any legitimate concerns, he is willing and able to answer. He has never run away from that fact. But the fact of the matter is that the statement released by EOCO is filled with holes, and it simply does not hold up. And we are at a point where we are not just going to allow people's reputations to be sullied, like it has been done since this government took over. We all remember the Dubois case and how it also was handled by EOCO, and how now the matter is in court and looking very different. But before they got to that point, that gentleman was made to go through a lot. He was adjourned guilty in the media by the state agencies. And that is something that simply should not be allowed to happen. It's a big threat to our democracy in this country. And so we are not going to sit by and allow it to happen this time again. We dispute every falsehood that is put out.
Okay. My final question is going to be that you say the 55 million cedis is a fabrication by EOCO. So are you suggesting that EOCO deliberately misrepresented the facts, or could it be that the over 500,000 liability you referred to is only one component of the broader investigation, the one against Gerald?
These are very important questions that we should be asking EOCO. They are the investigative body that have brought out information that we do not understand. I think these questions should be directed at EOCO because we are all curious to understand the thinking. And if you claim you're investigating somebody to the tune of 55 million, and so that is why you've picked him up for questioning, and you don't ask him about that, he's not questioning about that at all. So where did you get those things from? And again, like I said, let's wait and see what charges they are finally able to take to court, because what happened to Dennis in custody and the information they put out are very divergent. At no point they intersect. And I think that's a very serious matter. And again, this deliberate attempt to add the issue of Gerald, which in all intents and purposes was on its way to resolution. It was already dealt with and happening. In fact, Gerald was picked up somewhere 12 days ago when he looked like EOCO went to pick Dennis. Somebody that has paid back all the liabilities that liabilities are claimed to him, and it's left with just 79. Yes, he was picked up 12 days ago, and in fact, after he fulfilled his bail conditions, he was also kept at EOCO for several days before finally being let go. So I think, especially with regards to EOCO, we are beginning to see a worrying pattern. I'm very sure that you're also aware that the Wager contractor, the Wager Children's Hospital contractor, was also held by EOCO. And
yes.
This is beginning to be a pattern that is very worrying for proponents of the rule of law in this country, because we have to expect that we'll be treated fairly in the eyes of the law, and that politics will not get to a point where it is so muddy that you seek to denigrate and spoil somebody's reputation based on falsehood.
Dr. Akufo-Addo, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. She is the spokesperson for MPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We're still on politics. The third NDC delegates tracking poll for July points to a tightening race to succeed President John Mahama, with National Chairman Asiedun Ketia still in the lead but losing grounds as Finance Minister Kasiel Atoforsen gains momentum. Other key contenders, including Education Minister Haruna Idrisu, Vice President Jane Opoku-Agyeman, and Chief of Staff Julius Deborah, have seen declines in support, while a growing number of delegates remain undecided. So joining me in the studio right now is Joy News research analyst Jason Day to tell us a bit more about what is happening. Jason, what do we have to know?
So the first thing to know is that the poll done by Global Info and Analytics, the third that they've done on this NDC delegates, and then they've gone around asking about 5,000 people to make their own votes to those they prefer to lead the NDC. So the first question in starting their poll or making their analysis was, if in selecting someone to replace John Mahama, which of the following factors, what factors do you think you consider in selecting somebody to lead the party? And then looking at the numbers, they say that 66% as of July say performance-wise, they look at performance. They look at what the person has done in the past. They look at what the person has done in their current role. They look at if the person can actually do the job before they can choose. Now, the thing about this performance thing is back in April, it was 78% of the delegates, and now it is 66%. What that means is that 12% of people have either moved into, they don't really care, or they've moved into another category, which could be visionary, whether the person has more vision in leading the party or any other factor. These are the things that they look at, right? And but what they've seen, the one big thing that we've seen is that the people who used to think that the vision of the person is important in deciding who leads the party have actually dropped by 21%. But then there are three things that people don't really care about or don't really consider when they're making these decisions, and these are the ethnicity of the person, the religion of the person, and the gender. Gender is really striking because we thought that people put in that they need a man or they need, but
I'm shocked as well.
Since they did that, they don't really factor that in. All they want is if the person can do the job, if the person has a vision, or the person can actually serve the country. They move on to also do other things. They ask them if they agree if Asiedun Ketia, who is the current NDC chairman, should actually continue in his position. And then in April, when they asked, 42% agreed. And now that percentage has increased to 61%. So now 61% people agree that Asiedun Ketia should keep his chairmanship position. And only 26% do not agree. But then 13% don't have any opinion. The number is actually very insignificant because around 61% say he should keep his position as chairmanship. I guess he can keep his position. But then they went on to add that in case he may step down because he wants to do flag bearer or something, which of the grassroots members should lead the party? And in that case, we can see that the people leading that is those without opinion. 35% of people don't have any opinion on in that matter at all. What they are looking forward to is possibly that Asiedun Ketia keeps his position. But then those they asked, leading them is Neil Lanti van der Poy, followed by Ofosu Ampofo and Alhaji Said Sinai. These are the people that the grassroots feel like they could lead the party if Asiedun Ketia is not in the picture. Still on the chairmanship race, they also broke it down to asking those in those religious blocks, right? Those who don't really have any religion attached to them, and still Neil Lanti van der Poy is still in the lead. And they move on to talk about, now this is interesting. This is a new thing that they've actually done. They've said that since the MPP has brought in an economist, that's Dr. Bawumia, to lead the party in 2028, do they think that they should also bring Akufo-Addo to lead the party? So now putting these two people side by side, and they're going to ask the NDC delegates, and what they have said is that now they asked them in April when 49% agreed that yes, once Bawumia is leading the party for MPP, then we should also bring an economist to do a side by side, and then that number has actually edged up to 58%, and then only 23% do not agree. So people feel like, I mean, economist to economist should go on the battleground in 2028, but we don't know for sure if that will happen. But these are the thoughts of the MDC delegates, and goes on to talk about who actually leads the party. So this is shocking. People believe Akufo-Addo should be in the lead because of Bawumia, but in putting Bawumia and everybody, in putting all the people who are going to contest, right? Still, people are undecided. They are the ones who lead the poll. 30% of people are undecided in that regard. But then still, Asiedu Nketia, people believe that he should lead the party in 2028, followed by Akufo-Addo with 22%, and Haruna Iddrisu and the vice president follow in 6% and 7%. They move on that in case the vice presidents and Haruna and Julius Debra, who is the current chief of staff, in case these people don't contest, still, who do you think should lead the party? And that puts it head-to-head between Asiedu Nketia and Akufo-Addo, and still Asiedu Nketia led in that category. But then, I mean, and still people are undecided, but then putting it together, Asiedu Nketia is still leading. So looking at it, looks like the NDC delegates do like the fact that Asiedu Nketia is leading the party, and they want to keep him there.
That's quite interesting. Jason Day is a Joy News research and data analyst. Thank you very much, Jason. Let's go on to Zoom right now and speak to Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere. He's a political analyst and the executive director of the African Institute of Strategic Studies. Dr. Asante-Okyere, welcome to the program. What do you make of this fresh data? I think one of the striking figures from this data is that undecided is more than the candidates who are likely to go for the flag bearer position. What do you make of it?
Well, let me say good afternoon to your viewers and to your good self. Let me put on record that over the period, my brother Mr. Dankwa has been sending me, his posts, and unfortunately, not too long ago, I had cause to critique his work, and then probably he took it from a negative perspective. And since that time, he's not sent me any document for me to peruse. But I believe that if you are doing a job of that nature, and it's for public consumption, it ought to be critiqued. And you don't have to be averse. You don't have to have that aversion to criticism. And so that is just by the by. You see, this particular poll or tracker that he's brought, if you have such a number of people who are undecided, sometimes I'm of the view that probably he's leaving that allowance along the line, as it were, to be filling in when the figures begin to change. And so I think that it is probably a statistical strategy. I'm not a statistician, but if your respondent, leave us with such a huge number, as it were, as undecided, then it means that the figures that you've put out there may not be too much of a foolproof. I stand to be corrected, though. So that is my view on that, huge allowance that most often than not he puts out there.
Okay.
Undecided. Yeah.
Okay, but albeit we still have to interrogate this poll. It says that Asiedu Nketia is leading by 27%, followed by Finance Minister Cassiel Akufo-Addo, 22%. We have Haruna Iddrisu in third place. We also have Vice President Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman. Is this something that is likely to play out should elections for the flag bearer of the MPP or NDC be held today?
Well, I wouldn't say I agree or disagree, but I will just advise my brother that when it comes to the delegate system, it is not that simplistic. right? It is not that simplistic because, one, the NDC, they don't have any delegates so far, but there is no completion of a register to that effect. So maybe you may be relying on old, numbers, as it were. But obviously, by the end of gathering the list, you're going to have a lot more people who may not be on the register, and others who might have died. There's going to be some replacement here and there. Okay, he says he does random sampling. Well, how random is that random? You see, let's look at it from a period of last year, for example. This first poll that came, we had the vice president leading. The next, unfortunately, the vice president falls sick and she's taken out. She comes back, she's never come to the lead. Then the next time round, it was Haruna who was leading. And then I think then came Dr. Atufosin or Atufosin. Mm-hmm. And then later on we have, Mr. Asiedun Katia. So my question has been, what has been influencing these changing dynamics, right? Apart from that, we have not even had the opportunity to say that these are people who are qualified to contest for that particular position. No vetting has been done. So sometimes I don't know whether this is more of a king-making process than the proper polling that he's doing. Because it's as if you asked a question like, 61% of your respondents claim that Mr. Asiedun Katia should remain as the chairman of the party. Why that particular question about Mr. Asiedun Katia alone? You see? And then you asked a similar question about Dr. Forson. Is it the case that you seem to have interest in Dr. Forson? Because 58% currently says that, well, they believe that Dr. Atufosin should be the one leading. Why that particular question about Mr. Asiedun Katia? Besides, I've listened to Mr. Dankwa about some of the parameters that they rely on. For example, some time ago he said visibility. So visibility is an important variable, right? That, as it will, create the mindset as far as the respondents are concerned. But can you convince me that, for example, currently, which of the people who have been polled, has been more visible than the vice president? Right? Which of them has been more visible than the vice president? You can see that the education minister has been quite visible. The agri minister has been quite visible. So, and then, of course, the finance minister as well. But recently, when the National Council of Elders came up with that particular edict, as it were, asking people to tone down on some of these things, of course, the visibility of Mr. Asiedun Katia, that one has really dimmed a bit. Probably he is gathering himself, I cannot tell for that. So I'm of the view that there is some level of inconsistency in the way he evaluates the things that he puts value on. You understand? So if you asked your respondents about visionary, I mean, what knowledge? What is the level of knowledge of these respondents, so to speak, in terms of classifying this person as more visionary or not? Now, when you look at performance, if you are talking about performance and you have the national chairman who is not, a member of government, so to speak, how then would they be able to measure his performance? And then you look at other factors being 44%, but personality is around 24%. So what are those other factors? Why should other factors take premium over personality? Well, that is maybe what the respondent said. So that is by far the view I have, on that. I don't want to create a situation where I'm going to dim the electoral fortune or somebody's presidential ambition, as it were, by speaking directly to whatever is put out there in terms of agreeing to this, agreeing to that, this person, I think so. That particular period has not come. I am waiting for a period when the NDC, would have cleared the air, and then you have a situation where people would have been vetted, and they are saying that these are the people who have qualified to contest for that particular position. Then we can make some of these, categorical statements.
Right. The Agric Minister is polling 1% per the data by Global Info Analytics. Is that shocking to you?
Well, if in terms of visibility, in terms of performance, it is quite surprising. He put also, what's it called, Professor Alabi at 1%.
Yes.
In any case, Professor Alabi was the one who contested Mr. Mahama, and he came second. So I don't know what might have changed in terms of his following for him to be scoring that low. But you see, when you do random computer assisted calling, that's why I said, how random is that random sampling? Is it the case that every now and then you get entirely different 5,000 people who are polled, or you get about 60 to 70 of this random sampling who are always called? If that is the case, you are always going to get this particular outcome.
So how do you think it should be done?
Where I'm coming from. So, well, I am not a pollster. I don't want to think that there is a motivation that is influencing the way things are done. I don't want to think of that sort. But if it is a matter of visibility, which is a component, an important variable, as it were, whenever he's done it, whenever he's doing his polling, then I think that, some of the people that they might have polled should rather score a little higher than what we are seeing.
Okay.
So that is why I see that kind of inconsistency. But I don't want to, be individualistic about the names that have been mentioned. You understand? Because if you are not careful, somebody will say, well, maybe his bias is here, maybe his preference is here. You understand? That is why I'm of the view that, some of these things earlier on, I felt that it was a little too early and it could unsettle government in terms of unity, in terms of performance. People could easily be undermining, right? Trying to outmaneuver and so on and so forth. So it was not good in terms of governance. Okay. And from the period where we had the National Council of Elders issue that particular edict, you could see that there's been some calm. This is not an uneasy calm. There's been some calm within the system. And so I wasn't expecting anything of that sort. But as I've been asked to, comment, I have to do so.
Dr. Jonathan Asante-Ocho, grateful for your time this afternoon. He's a political analyst. You're still watching The Pulse here on Joy News. We return from the break with more. Don't go anywhere. You're welcome back to The Pulse as Dagbon mourns the passing of the Yana Mahama Abukari II. We take a closer look at his journey and the critical role of chieftaincy institutions in Ghana's development from the pre-colonial era to the present day. Chieftaincy has remained central to preserving culture, maintaining social order, and shaping community leadership. But the institution has also faced recurring challenges, with chieftaincy disputes emerging across the country. So what lessons can Ghana draw from Dagbon's journey, particularly its efforts toward peace and stability? Joining me in the studio is former Minister for Chieftaincy Affairs, Dr. Dana. He is a chieftaincy researcher and legal anthropologist. Dr. Dana, welcome to the program. Henry Seydou Dana, that's his full name. Grateful to have you in our studios this afternoon, Dr. Dana.
Thank you very much.
What do you make of the late Yana who passed recently?
First of all, let me say a good afternoon to our listeners and viewers across the country. And to say that the news of the departure of Yana has come as a shock and grief, not only to the people of Dagbon or the Gbewa kingdoms, but to all who are familiar with chieftaincy. His passing is a time for all of us to reflect and to take stock.
May his soul indeed continue to rest in peace, and may his memory be a blessing. Many have argued that before colonial rulers came to Ghana, chieftaincy relatively recorded peace, and we were able to govern our people through chieftaincy without any issue. Would you say that the coming of Europeans to our shores as Africans and Ghanaians has contributed to some of the challenges that have come along our chieftaincy system?
Very much so. If you take the case of Dagbon, we are talking about a kingdom as far back as 12th, 11th centuries. Dagbon, Moshi, Mamprugu, you know, the descendant kingdoms of Bewa. And those who are familiar with the history know that in 1328 circa, it's recorded that the Moshi fought the Mali Empire. And when Mansa Musa defeated the Moshi, it's recorded that he couldn't completely defeat them. He couldn't outright defeat them. But let's note, the Moshi referred to was just not only those in Ouagadougou. It was the Moshi kingdoms. And that included as far as Dagbon, Mamprugu, and the offshoots, Wala, they all belong to the same dynasty. And so when the white man came, let me just make a point that why do we call 1896 the year of chieftaincy calamity? When we refer to the 1896 year of chieftaincy calamity,
right? What
we mean is that certain things happened in 1896 that is despicable. I'll give you two. In 1896, the then governor of the Gold Coast, Sir Maxwell, who was a British, because Asante Hene Prempeh I refused British supremacy or what they call it, protection, or call it whatever, he was removed from Kumasi and deported to Socials. And Ashanti was chiefless. The same year, 1896, the German command in the then Togoland, wanting to expand their territory, requested Yana Yakuba I of Dagbon to enumerate his fighting men and then bring them under German high command, which he refused. And you know why all this was going on? Because the European powers, after the Berlin Conference of 1884, decided to partition Africa among themselves.
Yeah.
And 1896 was a very bad year for Ghana. So when Yana Yakuba I refused this offer, the next thing was that a German army led by Lieutenant von Masu was on his way to Yendi. The target aims were two. One, to crush the Dagbon army so that they would succumb to Germany. And two, to capture the Yana. At the Battle of Adibo, they were able to achieve their first target aim. The Dagbon army was routed. They won the battle. But the target two, to capture the Yana, they failed. Lieutenant Maso got to Yendi, succeeded in burning down the town, but they couldn't find Yana. After some days, he realized that they couldn't make it. So they gave up the idea and left. But the harm they had done was that by the end of 1896 December, Dagbon was divided. The eastern part was German, and the western part was English. So it was like British Dagbon and German Dagbon.
Right.
This is why we say 1896 was a year of calamity, a chieftaincy calamity.
Wow.
But it happened that Dagbang Kingdom was restored. How? That was because if you listen to if you had the chance to go through the accounts, colonial accounts of our chieftaincy, you realize that the British and the German, they never expected things to change. For them, the old order was over. This was the new order. But if you listen to the drum history, you listen to the chiefs' narratives, and then the Malami, the Muslim scholars in the north, then you realize that all that was happening, people believed unshakably that Dagbon would be back. And they were proved right. It wasn't long when the Europeans themselves started fighting between themselves. Germany against British.
Right.
And then, of course, the Gomba chiefs preferred the English to the Germans. For the reason what they did to Yana Yokba I, burning down Yendi. And the English gradually became the friends. And after the war was won in 1919 against Germany, Dagbon was restored. It became Dagbon, the Dagbon that it was during the time of Nasi Topu, Nadarisiabo, Zangina. It was restored. And so this teaches us one lesson.
Yeah.
We say the downfall of a man is not the end of his life. And it's even so with kingdoms. Kingdoms fall, kingdoms rise.
Okay. Dr. Dana, so what do you think is the legacy of the late Yana who just passed? What's his legacy? What legacy did he leave?
That's a very important question. He's really left a legacy. You know, let's come to the post-independence era. We had some the trouble during during the colonial time was that it was outsiders Germans attacking Dagbon. In the after independence period, it was internal. There was conflict between royal family, brothers by different sides of the royal family, Abu and Adani, over succession. President Kwame Nkrumah did his best. We had the LI 59, but probably the methodology and the other nuances probably were not enough. And I sympathize with our first president.
Right.
The professionals, the experts, the colonialists used, R.S. Ratu and whatnot, they left. And there was a vacuum. And of course, some of these things, you need people who understand the subject. And so, by the time of the Second Republic, we had this conflict about over-success. We led to a lot of the loss of lives and property. And it rambled on. And even though the successive governments tried, it took some time before things came to order. Nonetheless, sadly, it resurfaced in 2001 and thereabout, during which time I was a research director.
Right.
And Yana's, His Majesty's departure, the good thing about it is that the message you'll be carrying to his brothers, the departed kings, will be that Dagbon stance.
Right.
So those who were thinking that, I remember in 2003, we had visiting researchers from foreign visiting researchers. And in my office, in the discussions, one of them asked me a question, the director. So seriously speaking, do you think this, your Dagbon issue, can Dagbon become one again with the division there? I also threw a question back to him. If Dagbon, when divided between Britain and Germany, could become Dagbon again, why do you think that a quarrel between brothers will prevent Dagbon from becoming Dagbon? And the answer was silence. I think that the fact that Yana is departing at this time, when the kingdom is what it was,
right,
it's good legacy.
Briefly, before we wrap up, what message would you give to the people of Dagbon as they are in this period of transition, looking for a new leader to replace the departed Yana?
Yes, I think what Dagbon, people in Dagbon has to realize that they are in mourning, and not they alone, many all over the world, particularly those who have the chieftain institution. And I can show that there are a lot of people all over Africa,
right,
who keep their eyes on Ghana when it comes to monarchy. And so everybody is in mourning. And this, the best we can do is to take stock, lie low, and reflect. And our hope is that the legacy would be sustained, so we'll get a peaceful succession.
Yeah.
To disgrace those who are always looking for doomsaying. And what I think is also important is that people who matter in public, they should mind their utterances.
Right.
We should be saying, making utterances that help.
Exactly. Let's look at chieftaincy in Ghana overall. I think if there's one thing that the Europeans did when they came to the shores of Africa, it was to dismember the chieftaincy system that we had, because they came with their own system of governance and they realized that we have our own system of government. They tried all they could, but as we speak right now, chieftaincy is still well and alive in Ghana. But do you think it has a future in the country?
My message, and I don't say it, I'm missing words, is that with all the problems of chieftaincy, it is our asset, not our liability.
Yeah.
Let me refer you to 1958, John Smith. In northern Nigeria, he warned that anybody who attempts to remove the stability that chieftaincy provides without ensuring an even greater stability is courting disaster. The Europeans did what they did to chieftaincy because they knew if the chieftaincy was left intact, they wouldn't be able to colonize, get away. True. That's why they did that. But we shouldn't agree. If somebody is pushing inside a river, should we agree to go into the river? You should fight back.
Yeah. So
the institution is unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand this noble institution, unfortunately. To the extent that some people think that once you're not from the royal family, if the chieftaincy conflict, it's not your matter. It is. It is your matter.
It is indeed.
If there's a problem, assuming the police station was not there, where do you go to? The palace. If there's a quarrel, if the courts are not there, where do you go to? The palace. So, I think we should always be mindful about these facts.
Right, right. Dr. D.S. Dana, or H.S. Dana, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. He's a chieftaincy researcher, a legal anthropologist, and former Minister for Chieftaincy and Traditional Affairs. A very knowledgeable man. Thank you once again for making time to join us in the studio this afternoon. Well, let's take you to Parliament now, where the minority have staged a walkout accusing the First Deputy Speaker, Bernard Ahiafo, of attack, intimidation, and frustrating their efforts to hold ministers accountable on the floor of the House. The walkout followed a disagreement between First Deputy Speaker Bernard Ahiafo and the Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin over the Speaker's decision to rule out a follow-up question on procurement process involved in the government-announced SIM card re-registration exercise. My colleague James Aboagye has details of what transpired. He's joining us from the House of Legislature. James, tell us more. What really happened?
Well, Ken, the question originally seeks to sort from the minister why government would want to undertake another SIM card re-registration when we've done about 2 or 3 of same in the previous years. And the minister, in answering that question, explained that it is to close some security gaps and the lapses. The reason we were told earlier were to prevent a number of things, including SIM card frauds and others, which are still continuing. And so the reason is to stop all of those. Then there was a follow-up question on that, about whether or not this is coming at a cost to the state or how much will be involved in this. The minister provided an answer to that, and then the minority leader rose to his feet and asked another follow-up question on whether the ministry or government is considering, using procurement basis and which kind of procurement, or just questions around procurement issues around this particular exercise that is scheduled. The government has announced it will be undertaken. But the speaker, the first deputy speaker, Bernard Ahinyako, who is presiding over the proceedings, sought to draw the minority leaders' attention to the fact that the orders of the House does not allow for a follow-up question which is not based on the original question that is asked the minister. The speaker believes that that question does not fall within the original question of why government intends to do this exercise. And so if he could frame the question, he would allow for that. The two of them went on that for 2-3 occasions. For about 20 minutes, they were going back and forth around the propriety of the minority leader's question. Finally, the speaker allowed the minister, and the minister indicated that the earlier one, initial one, was about how many SIM cards they will be registering. The minister said he doesn't now have the figures to put to it, and so should the first question be filed, he would get the figures correctly and come back to the House. But the speaker ruled out the question about the procurement issue, which the minority wasn't happy about, for which reason they staged a walkout from the chamber. They did an emergency press conference after that, in which they accused the speaker of using the orders of the House to intimidate and frustrate the minority from holding government ministers accountable when they appear before the House.
James, don't go yet, because we understand that Kojo Oppong Nkrumah is currently on the floor of the House addressing Parliament. We'll come back to you, but let's listen in to what he's saying right now.
A copy of the answers submitted by the central bank. This is what they don't want you to cover. Now, let me give you a bit of a background. In 2025, you will recall that we raised here on this floor that there were questions about how the sovereign reserves of the Republic of Ghana were being managed in an attempt to bring the currency to a particular exchange rate. And there were denials from the central bank. The year having been over, we then filed questions, 3 questions, just 3 questions. The first question is to ask the governor the source of the forex that is being used for the foreign exchange market intervention that is being done to bring the currency to where it is. Where are they getting the forex from? The second question is to ask the governor what framework the foreign exchange market intervention is currently using. And the third question is to ask the governor how much has been injected. You recall us talking about they pumping a lot of our reserves into the market in an attempt to achieve a particular exchange rate. Now, in recent weeks, we have found more developments at the central bank in the exercise of monetary policy, reserve management, and the growing losses at the bank. Why does this matter to us? Because at the end of the day, you, the people of Ghana, will pay. And that is why we are raising these questions, so that we can also share other risks that they are not paying attention to. Earlier, the governor submitted his answers, and I'm going to read to you the answers they don't want you to hear. And it is just as we're about to have this meeting, so that he will deliver these answers, and then we will execute the follow-up questions. Yes, it is just as we're about to start this meeting that now the majority side says they do not want the media to cover. In the responses that they have given, they actually answer the question of the source. And the answers have already been published on the order paper. So there are matters that are not secret. They are already published on the order paper. And I want to read to you the first part of why they don't want you to cover. The Bank of Ghana says that since August 2024, they have not undertaken direct market interventions, as their FX operations do not draw on the central bank's reserves. Instead, the FX intermediation has been executed through the domestic gold purchase program. Does that sound familiar to anybody? The Bank of Ghana is here to admit that the ability to intervene on the market is as a result of the domestic gold purchase program. And that what they are doing is that they are mobilizing forex proceeds from the domestic gold purchase program, and those are the forex proceeds that they are using for market intermediation. Why is it that the majority is preventing the governor from saying this to the entire country? Is it because he's of the view that it undermines the stories they've been telling the people of Ghana, that it is because of the gold board and some new strategies that they have brought? Is it because the governor is here to admit on record that it is as a result of the domestic gold purchase program that they are able to mobilize these forex resources and inject onto the market? Is it because they are afraid that if that is said, it will become glaringly clear that the person responsible for this is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia? Is that the reason for which they are clearing the media from the gallery?
Exactly.
So that they will continue to peddle the story to the Ghanaian public that is because of gold board and some superior strategies that they have introduced. Because the governor is here to admit, and he even gives the dates on which it started and the steps that they are taking to continue with it. There are further questions about the framework that is being used and the risks in the framework, because now they are compromising the reserve build-up strategy of the Republic in their bid to mobilize more forex to keep the currency at a particular level. And as a result, the continuous reserve build-up strategy of the Republic is now suffering, may I say, the opportunity cost of what the original domestic gold purchase program was. We've also been asking questions about how much they have injected. They know that in the answers they've provided, they have deliberately cut off the timelines. Questions as at April, they are answering backdated answers to 2025, not to provide the latest numbers. And they know that the follow-up questions will come. And so they are on this exercise to ensure that the media does not cover what is happening. We have further questions on extra losses that the central bank is incurring. You recall that recently, when the Bank of Ghana accounts came, instead of complying with the act to lay it before Parliament, they have still not done it. They invited you here, and they invited NDC party members and members of NDC caucus to come and announce an understated loss to you here. The finance minister has still not presented it to Parliament. We are observing more losses that are happening there, and they know the governor will be requested to answer, and he cannot lie. And so they are denying you an opportunity to cover the answers that he will be given. There are questions about the credibility of some of the figures that they have been putting out that we are going to put to him, and they don't want you to hear the answers. We are here to inform you this afternoon that as a result of their decision not to allow you to cover, we have suspended our participation. Our leadership will continue to engage so that they do the right thing. In times past where the governor has been here, you have been in the chamber to cover. Live. Various stations have covered it live. What is it that they are afraid of that now they don't want you to cover? When the Electoral Commission chair and her team came here, many of you covered it live. It was also a committee of the whole. Yes, the rules say that we have a right to open it up or not, but you have nothing to hide. And so in the precedent gone by, it was opened to the public. And we are astonished, disappointed that they don't want the media to cover the responses that the governor is about to give. Our leadership will continue to engage so that the right thing is done, and at the appropriate time it is opened up so that you and the people of Ghana will follow every single answer that is given. This is the house of accountability. This is the people's house. This is where the people must hear the answers to all of these questions. And today, as we advertise the practice of an open parliament, why do you want to close questions that have been advertised and answers advertised to the public? We leave the jury out to decide.
Thank you. Let me add this point to what my colleague just said to you. We forwarded to you the MPC reports for May 2026, and we'll ask you to read Table 6. It will come out clearly that the gross reserves as at the end of the first quarter was $14.2 billion. Information to us is that gathered by the caucus is that as at the end of June 2026, this has dropped to $12 billion. We want to find out from the governor, or we're asking him to confirm whether he used the $2 billion for market interventions. That's a simple question we want to put to the governor, and we're asking you to do your own research. That's why we wanted you to be in the chamber to enable you report accurately, so that you are not being asked by the NDC or the government side to say that you misreported. It's very important that we have you in the chamber to report accurately. So find out by the information provided you whether he's used $2 billion to intervene in the market. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You just heard there the ranking member on the Economy and Development Committee in Parliament, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, address the press a while ago. My colleague James Aboagye is still in Parliament for us. He's joining us right now with the latest. James, explain to our viewers what Kojo Oppong Nkrumah just said.
Their leaders to continue the engagement to see if they would be able to get them to agree for the media to partake in the proceedings. Ken, if you can hear me, just a quick brief of what they've been saying so far. The minority is indicating that the questions involved for which reason the governor has been summoned here are three. One, how much did government or the Bank of Ghana use to intervene in the to stabilize the cedi? How much money have they injected into the economy to bring about the stability of the cedi since January 2026 as we speak? And I mean, where those monies come from and other issues around that. That is the question that brought the BOG governor to Parliament. Their expectation has been that this should have been an open encounter so that the media can cover that. According to Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, their information also indicates that the country's reserve, Patrick Boma has been telling us, has also declined in the last few months from some 14 billion in the first quarter to about 12 billion as at the end of June 2026. And they want to answers on the difference of the 2 billion that occurred as part of the reduction, and those are the things they want the media to cover, and they have decided to excuse themselves from the proceeding to allow for their leadership to engage and agree that the media would be allowed into the proceedings before they can partake in that. We are yet to get any reaction from the majority on this, what they make out of this. But earlier I was indicating to you what happened to require the walkout that they did, and I was telling you about the First Deputy Speaker's decision to not allow a question from the minority leader, which he believes does not align with the original question about why government is deciding to undertake another re-registration exercise, and the decision of the Speaker not to allow him ask that warranted them to walk out from the floor of Parliament. They say the First Deputy Speaker, according to them, is using the orders of the House to intimidate and frustrate them from holding ministers accountable when they appear before the House. We can take that excerpt and then we'll come back to continue with the conversation, Ken.
We have observed that the First Deputy Speaker has a way of using the rules to stampede parliamentary oversight.
You've all observed that he started the attack on our backbenchers. Anytime our backbenchers were, had the opportunity to be on their feet, he will use the rules to frustrate them. The rules are not meant to be used to intimidate, frustrate, and as he's trying to do, bring Parliament to a standstill. We've tolerated the first Deputy Speaker for quite some time. Even today, you realize that the question I was asking was a public interest question. This is a government policy that is seeking to start SIM registration afresh. They claim that people use unverifiable identities to get SIM registration cards. And our question is, at what cost? How many people were identified to have used stolen IDs and all of that? Especially so when the minister himself said it will be at no cost to the subscribers. This is a harmless question. It's the interest of the Ghanaian public to know how much it is costing the nation. In any event, the previous registration came at a cost. So we need to know what procurement processes are being followed and all of that. And this is the first Deputy Speaker who's sitting as a presiding officer, claiming to know the rules and saying that no, it's a new question. Meanwhile, that answer was provided by the minister. And the rules under 89(1) allows you to anchor your supplementary question on an answer given by the minister. For the purpose of clarification. So this is just our protest. We protested the posture of the first Deputy Speaker using the rules to frustrate us. And as you observe, even his own side disagreed with him. The majority leader himself realized that what he was doing was wrong. Is the reason why we walked out. However, we're going back into the chamber to deal with other business. We protested his posture on this very matter, and that is it. Thank you very much indeed.
That there is the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin there, and my colleague, James Aboagye, is still on standby for us. James, what else has been happening in Parliament today?
Well, Ken, there's been a number of reports that have been laid from the Public Accounts Committee and other committees on the floor before the question and answer session began. The first one was with the Minister for Communications, Sam George, which resulted in the outcome we have just listened to from the minority. The second session was supposed to be the governor of the Bank of Ghana. We just learning the majority is here to respond to the concerns of the minority. Let's go back now and listen to the majority chief whip, Roxy Nelson, the Apamekpo, who has just come to address the media on this.
Address you. So just be on standby. Shortly, we will return. So hold on.
Well, Ken, interestingly, it was just an announcement that they will be coming to address us shortly in about 5 minutes. The majority would also come to do a press conference on the concerns the minority have been raising. But what we know from the minority is that they have withdrew themselves from that committee of a whole meeting or behind closed doors hearing of the governor of the Bank of Ghana. They have entrusted their leaders or the leadership of the minority to engage the majority to agree that the media will come in or this hearing will be open to the general public and the entire country to listen to the answers that will be provided by the BOG governor to the questions that have been raised. And that is what we're hearing. We're just having in now the majority leader, Mama Yariga, and the majority chief whip, Roxy Nelson Dapameko, on the issues. We can go and listen to them on what they have to say to the issues.
Press, can you separate? You are welcome. We want to respond to a couple of issues, and so the majority leader of the House will address you shortly on those matters. After that, we'll respond to some questions that may be arising from the short briefing. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm sure my colleague, the minority leader, addressed you, and the minority caucus addressed you. And I thought that it is only fair for our side of the House to also explain to you exactly what happened. The events that occurred there pertain to whether or not, any time that the governor of the central bank appears before the House, whether it has to be a public hearing. That's the basic question. Whether any time that the central bank governor appears before the House, it must be a public hearing. And we said that the rules were changed so that the House can invite the governor to appear not before the House in plenary, but appear before the House as a committee of the whole. That is what the rules say. Many of you have been covering this House for so many years, and you all know that apart from the ministers, all the other independent constitutional bodies that come, they come and appear before the committee of the whole. And you all cover this House, and you know that when the administrator of Common Fund comes, have we allowed you to ever cover it? I'm asking you journalists, do you cover the Common Fund administrator? Do you cover the NHRA boss? All those, and even most of the time, unless we meet and decide, when the electoral commissioner comes here, you don't cover the electoral commissioner. So the central bank governor came to answer questions posed by Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, and we said that let's do what we do for all other independent constitutional bodies, which is let us sit without the media, because that's what we do for everybody. And they said no. The media must be in. We said no. Our practice has always been that for these independent constitutional bodies, we don't hear them at plenary, and we don't do it before the cameras. And they said we have set a precedent by inviting the media to participate. The last time we invited the governor to answer questions regarding the cost of the office building of the Bank of Ghana. And so because we have set that precedent, at all times we must allow the media in. Now said, it is up to the committee to decide, because if you read our standard orders, it says in order 266 that meetings of committees, and the committee of the whole is also a meeting of the committee. So it says that proceedings of a committee shall be held in public except otherwise determined by the committee. So I asked them to convince the entire committee to want to sit in public. But if you don't convince the entire committee to agree to sit in public, you cannot force the committee to sit in public. And they walked away. They couldn't convince the committee to sit in public, and rather opted to walk out and abandoned the question. Meanwhile, the governor himself knew that there will be journalists.
So his answers are actually captured in a press release. The answers that the governor was going to provide to Parliament, he had already captured it as a press release and was willing to even share it with the journalists. So I want you to know that there's nothing that the governor is afraid of answering in public. It is just that I believe that we must adhere to our rules. And if indeed your interest is in finding out something about the way that the finances of this country are being managed, the man who is managing is sitting in front of you. You can ask the question and then satisfy yourself that the finances are being properly managed. You can use the information in your engagements in other areas and on other platforms. But clearly, what the minority has done is to show that they are not interested in the question and the answers to the question. They are interested in the media optics. Saying that the governor has come, ask him your questions. Say no, unless the journalists are standing there, you will not ask him the questions. I say, but we don't do that for all the other independent constitutional, but why must it be the governor that we must be subjecting to that at all times? I did it because I had the numbers, so I could convince the committee of the whole at that time to have the journalists in and cover the proceedings. If you want to do that, you have to approach us, you have to work with us, and we will all agree that this is how we're going to do it. But when you have an attitude of you want to do things the way you want at all times, you were here this morning, you asked the minister a question, the minister answered, then you want to ask, supplementary questions, speaker rules against you, you show gross disregard for the speaker, and then you walk out. When you have that attitude, even on simple matters, we will grandstand. You understand that? You act and people also react. If you are just approaching and say, we want this thing before the cameras, we would have asked the governor, if you are comfortable with the media, why not? The governor says he's comfortable. He even has it as a press release. So he doesn't have a problem. But when you adopt that kind of attitude that he's adopting, creating the impression that whatever he wants, that's what will happen, I will also show that it is the rules that will govern proceedings and not what you want. So that is what has happened. I'm going to share a copy of the governor's response and then also the order paper so that you can see the questions that have been asked. If you want information about what the governor was going to tell the House, please, it is here. If you want to know the questions that were going to be asked, the questions are also here. So there's nothing that anybody is hiding, in terms of what the governor was going to say. It is only this governor who actually answers to our invitations. You were here covering this house. Can you tell me how many times Addison came to this house? Governor Addison, under the NPP. Tell me how many times Addison actually agreed to come and answer questions in this house, or even appear before the committee. He never came. This governor, at all invitations, he comes. We are just saying that let's not make it a practice that anytime the governor is here, there has to be before the cameras. No. He has his, monthly media meetings. I think the governor does that. Yes. The governor does his monthly media meetings, and he briefs the media regarding whatever he's doing. I'm sure your colleagues who are at Financial Times and etc., who represent your media houses at those monthly meetings, you get to ask him all the questions that you want to ask him, and I'm sure he answers all your questions. So this is not a governor that runs away from the media. We just feel that let's keep to the practice of this House. When independent constitutional bodies are coming to the House, they come and they appear before us in camera at Committee of the Whole, unless as a House we decide that we want to have the media to participate. You know that we are the last people to want to sack you from our proceedings. I'm sure statements have been made trying to incite you against the majority leader. I can assure you that I have no intention of depriving you of any information, but I believe that let us do things properly according to our standing orders, and we will not shy away from that. Thank you. You can ask your questions.
One issue your colleague acknowledge this has to do with your having not willing to acknowledge their government, the previous MPP government, for starting the Gold for Reserve program. Is the reason you are now allowing further probe of the issue?
What was the result?
Especially not allowing the media's presence. Is it true that the source for gold course purchases has to do with Gold for Reserve program?
Can you answer your question again?
So the minority could
I understand the first question. The first question is that we are running away from the media participating because we don't want the acknowledgement that it is the Gold for Reserve program that started by the NPP government that has helped stabilize the finances of this country. Is that basically the question? Well, I mean, yes.
Yes.
The answers you are furnishing the media is a response from
Yes. What happened really was that because they were not there, the question was not asked. So the governor has actually not provided the answer formally, but he had already prepared the answer in the form of a press statement, okay? And he has shared it with us. So I'm just sharing a copy with you, but the governor hasn't answered the question.
So, this will be the answer from the governor.
Yes.
What makes it difficult to allow the cameras to capture the governor?
Something about the rules and regulations of that. Yeah, so you see, the standing orders decided to treat institutions differently. Ministers appear before plenary. Governors, common fund administrators, Get Fund, NHIA, they appear before the committee. Now, you have to decide, members of the committee, whether you want the committee to be in camera or you want the committee to sit in public. Now, let me say something. For today, there's no issue. Now, if you allow a practice where automatically anybody can drag the central bank governor to this house and before the cameras say whatever they want to say, and the governor says certain things, you know how sensitive any comment by a central bank governor is likely to be in relation to the stability of your currency. So even though this house is trying to make the institutions accountable to the people, you have to do it in a very guarded manner. In a very guarded manner. The idea behind making the governor answerable to Parliament is so that when we need information, we can get it. Okay? But it is not the objective of the rule that we should always subject the central bank governor to a media inquiry. That is the principle. But of course, when you are in a minority, you like the show of media inquiry. So you'll be fighting for a thing like that. But when you are in a government, in all sincerity, you will be more cautious in terms of how you manage information about your central bank, activities. And so that is basically the issue. I believe that it is better to be cautious than to throw your central bank governor out there, and allow people to ask questions, to say all sort of things. Sometimes you are here in the house with us. People ask questions without any basis. Without any basis. For us at the political level, we can engage in that banter and get away with it. For the governor of the central bank, he cannot engage in that kind of banter, and then the finances of this country will get away with it. I hope you understand. So that is why we in the majority insisted that we will not deviate from the practice of having the independent constitutional bodies appear in camera before the committee of the whole. If you invite them 100 times, they will come 100 times, but they will come and appear before the committee in camera. when they provide you with the answer, you can go out and do whatever you want to do with the answer. That's up to you. But we'll not allow it to be before the journalists, unless among us as a committee we agree. So we said that let's agree. Convince us why you want us to have it before the cameras. And then instead of trying to convince us, they just walked out.
Okay, only two. Yes.
Which one? About the goal for reserves. Oh, as for the goal for reserves policy, we're all in this house when it started under the NPP. But what was the result? What really made goal for reserves successful? What made goal for reserves successful is the fact that when NDC came, we set up a whole institution called Gold Board to manage it. Number two, MPP was taxing the gold miners for selling their gold to the state. So when I mine my gold and I sell it, I pay tax. NDC removed the tax. So that was what incentivized the miners to now run to government with their gold. In the past, gold for reserve was there, but they were not getting the gold. They were not getting the gold because if the miners come to sell to the state will deduct tax out of it before giving them their money. So they were selling to smugglers. And that's how come at that time, UAE will record that we imported 100 tons of gold from Ghana. But when you go to Bank of Ghana record will say, we exported 15 tons of gold to the UAE. The 80% difference was accounted for through smuggling. So what made it successful is when we removed the taxes, and second and thirdly, what made it successful is when we passed a law saying that only Gold Board can buy the gold. Under the NPP, anybody could buy the gold, okay? And then they will pay tax. And so they smuggled it because they didn't want to pay the tax. NDC reformed it fundamentally. Created Gold Board, took out the taxes, and then prohibited any other person from buying it. That is the real story of the success of, the